head doctor had come in and said, we expect him not to live, send him off to Iowa. You got to either he's going to die there or die here. Right. And at that time, one of the nurses, she goes, Peter, I don't know what they told you, but I'm going to tell you, I've been a nurse here for 5 years and I've never experienced the what you've created in this space. You've created this energy in here that's very chills. Yeah, she goes, you created this energy in here that she goes, I've never felt before in this hospital. So she goes, whatever you're doing, it's amazing. Don't send him to Maywood. Just keep him right here. Then they came in and they took his blood work. And I was there and they came back with the results 3 hours later. And then all the numbers that they said that he was going to die started turning back the other way. The numbers that they were looking at, they were saying he was not coming back, all of a sudden stopped. And all of a sudden we're coming back to normal. And then every blood work after that got better and better and better. And he came out of his coma. And here we are. And and before I even opened Saints and Angels, and I was telling everybody, hey, Saints and Angels Healing Through Sound. You believe me? I had enough people telling me, I don't know if you want to use that. People in the religion nowadays, and oh my God, they may come and break your windows and everything. Burn down your building. I was like, yeah, I was like.
Hey, welcome back to Remember You. On this episode, we have a sound healer from Chicago, Illinois. He owns a place called Saints and Angels. His name's Peter Canelis. He's used sound to cure himself from cancer, his partner from liver failure, and so many other countless people. This is a must-watch episode. You will get so much out of it. Thanks for being part of us and our community. We love you guys. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome. And also, this is Michelle, Justin, and Christina, of course. But yeah, it looks like you've got kind of some questions here. Do you want to kick it off?
We really want to just understand who you are and how you got to where you are. So if you could give us like a 2-minute overview of what brought you here today and how you integrate sound into your everyday life.
Great. Yeah. How did I get into sound healing? Man, it's a journey. So I've been dealing with sound and frequency since I was a kid. Classically trained on the piano, played a little guitar and saxophone. My mom was a concert pianist. So I grew up in a very musical family. I moved to New York in 1991 to be a currency trader on Wall Street. And I did that for 4 years. But then I gravitated back towards my musical background. And next thing you know, I was a DJ in New York in the 90s.
Oh, amazing.
I taught myself how to DJ, how to put sets together, how to take crowds on a journey, how to create arcs. And I did that for many, many years through the 90s, early 2000s, up until now. I mean, I still DJ, just not as much. Now I do sound healing. And I started writing dance music in the 90s. Fast forward, I started writing exercise music. I've got a very famous podcast on iTunes called Running to the Beat, if you exercise. But then even fast forward a little bit more, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma cancer in 2019, January of 2019, January 30th of 2019 to be exact. It was the Arctic blast. I remember this day specifically. And I'd gone to St. Joseph Hospital, did the tests, and they had pulled me aside and they said, you got 5 years to live. You're going to you better get ready. You got to go through chemotherapy. You've got to go through a stem cell transplant, all this stuff. And I was like, oh, man, okay, this is new. Because it just came out of the blue, right? Yeah. I was a marathon runner. I worked at Lakeshore Sport and Fitness. Wow. I'm a cycling instructor. I mean, I'm doing all this and not feeling anything, but just going through these tests. And they're like, oh, here's what you got. So at that time, my partner, he had introduced me to sound healing. I didn't know what sound healing was. I'd always worked on the spectrum of getting people off the couch and onto the road to exercise, or getting people from the bar to the dance floor, back and forth, right? So I'm always getting people up and moving. And my partner's like, here, just look into sound healing, because he'd been watching YouTubes, the different Gaias and all that kind of stuff. And they were saying sound healing's, going to be the future. So he bought me my first little Tibetan bowl, and that was the rabbit hole. I just, all of a sudden I started looking into brain waves and how to shift our brainwave states from our active states down to our thinking states, how to regulate the nervous system. Basically, I was looking at sound this time as how was I going to take this sound and sound healing and carry it with me as I was going through the chemo, as I was going through the stem cell. How was it going to be supportive on that journey? And, when I was going through all that stuff, here's your marijuana card, here's your Ambience, here's your Xanax, here's your this and that, all the different drugs, because they'd have me on dexamethasone, which is one of the most powerful steroids on the market. And then I'd be up for 3 days, right? I mean, literally, I'd have it on Thursday, and I wouldn't go to bed until Monday. And that would be like with my Ambience, with the marijuana, with everything. I would just be like that. So finally, I bought my first, my partner bought me my little Tibetan bowl, and then I went out and I bought a Geno crystal bowl. And I literally sat in my condo, and I would just start playing the bowl, just listening to the tones, just introducing these sounds to my body, because it's always been dance music and those frequencies. Now I'm introducing these frequencies to my body, to my field, and I'm just noticing the shift. Just on my own, I was able to start falling asleep. I was just finding this calmness, this steadiness. I just noticed I was able to start dealing with things just differently. It was just more magical for me. Next thing I know is I was weaning myself off the Ambience, off the Xanax, off all that kind of stuff. And moving forward, I bought more bowls and just started practicing. I sat in my studio my condo for 2 years before I actually went out and started playing for people in public. I mean, for me, because sound is so important. Too many people take sound for granted, or they treat sound as though it's like it's just kind of like, they're just pretty sounds, right? What harm are they going to do to anybody? And see this, and that's a kind of a what harm does the sound do? Could it do to people? And that's an interesting topic, I think, on its own right, because in a sense, when I do a sound bath, let's say I was doing a sound bath with the four of you right now. We're not having a discussion in advance. I don't know what any of you are going through, right? So what I do is I create a general vitamin of sound. I like to call it a vitamin of sound bath. It's just like you take a vitamin in the morning, you have your multivitamins, your body takes in what it needs of the vitamins, the minerals, and then it passes through, eliminates the ones it doesn't need, right? I say the same thing happens with sound, right? Your body, I'm playing all these different frequencies, and I'm creating this vibrational dome in the room. And as everyone's laying there, your body is now resonating to what I'm playing, and it's taking in the frequencies that it needs and the frequencies that it doesn't need. It just kind of lets pass. But where I think a lot of sound healers may go astray is on a few different things. One, the intention they put behind the sound, and why they're using those frequencies and why they're playing them in a certain order, right? It's not like, there are those who just have their instruments, ding, 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 and they're just, I like to say, playing pretty notes if they're playing them, musically correct. But if you play them with intention and you're trying to take someone on a journey in the mind, or if you're working with someone on a specific issue, then I have certain protocols that I follow, certain steps that I follow in order to get to where I'm going. Just like a doctor, real quick.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when it comes, I've listened to other people talk about sound, and my dad plays the drums. He's an electrical engineer. I've been around sound all my life. There's a theory out there, and I'd love to hear your ideas on it, that 430 hertz.
432.
Yeah, 430 is what our
432.
432 is what our current music is on.
440.
440, and then 432 is actually what should be used for healing. Can you talk about what you think about that?
I use both.
Okay.
And at first, when I first started, I was very strictly 432.
Okay.
I wouldn't touch 440. Just because if you go back and you research how I even got to the 440, where did 440 even come about? Back in the day when classical music, when Mozart and all those guys were playing the piano and creating music, they were all creating at different frequencies. So you have one guy, Mozart, he's creating, I don't even know what frequencies they're creating at, but you have one person over here doing, one frequency, one person over here doing one frequency, one person in this country doing another frequency. And then when they traveled around, everything was just, wasn't cohesive, right? And that's how they steered it out of 440 eventually during what I think it was World War I. World War II is when it shifted to 440. And the theory is that 440 is a very disharmonious frequency. 440 is a disharmonious frequency, and 432 is a harmonious frequency. 432 resonates with our bodies, with the cellular structure. It's a very natural healing frequency. All my 90% of my instruments are tuned to 432 hertz. My lower bowls, I got really big, like 20-inch bowls. Half of those are 440, half of those are 432. And the reason I keep them, are different is because of the effects that I like to use in the space. Because when I have the different frequencies, like I got a G note at 432 and a G note at 440, right? So I like to create effects. I like to create effects with the music because an experience with me is a co-creative process. This isn't about you just coming in and falling asleep on my luxurious cushions because I make it so comfortable and lovely that I just put you to bed.
But it really is luxurious.
It is. But you can stay home in your own bed and put on some nice, relaxing piano music and fall asleep. They call it a sound bath and a sound meditation, I believe, because you're there to meditate with the sound. And the sound is a sound bath. We're just not using water. I'm bathing you in sound.
In frequency.
In frequency, because as you're in vibration, because as you're laying there, the sounds that I'm producing from the speakers, from the instruments, are going to encompass you from every direction, from your feet to your head to your toe, left to right. You won't know where the sound is coming from, but you will feel it. You will feel those vibrations moving through you. And the reason I like to use the two different frequencies is because I call that the scrubbing. I call that the wiping. I call that the cleansing. So when you're going through your visualization and you're feeling the sounds moving through you, and if you have issues going on in your throat center, then as I'm creating this wobbling effect, you can imagine something. Right? You can imagine that windshield wiper cleaning your energetic field. Right? That's why I like to use, use different frequencies to create different effects, like wobbling effects like that. And then I'll go into one, so then it's like a resolve.
Nice.
Well, and I wanted to share really quick because I just did. So I went to a private sound bath. That's how we connected with my boyfriend, Jordan. I did it for a gift for him. And it was different than, so you have two offerings, like the one-on-one or like the small private ones versus like now the group classes, which are up to 15 people. But the experience that we had was, first of all, it was almost like a psychedelic experience for me. Like, and I'm very sensitive to sound. Like I would say like, I'm a sound nerd. Like I love, like these experiences are really, really powerful for me. I saw Jordan like leave his body. Like I saw him like astral body like above him. And I know that sounds totally crazy, but I looked over because he passed out right away. And he is new to all these different things. And so he's never done anything like that. And he has been just dealing with a lot of really intense stress. And at the time when we went to see you, he hadn't been able to sleep regularly for months. Just waking up in the middle of the night just from stress. And not, he's been on this job hunt, whatever else. But then after that experience, again, he's never done anything like this. He's not into the healing stuff at all. So he was I asked him, do you want this for your birthday? And, because I think you're going to like it because I
want it for my birthday.
I'm like, this is for you, kind of. But he, after that, basically, all the sleeping stuff went away. And it was it reset his. It's resetting. His thing. And he, of course, again, he doesn't have the language because this is new for him, but he was just glowing, for a week after that. And I was like, you don't what we just did. And then I took my friend Scott, who came into town, and he had the same exact experience. He was saying, wow, I just felt like I floated off into another realm. He was I was emotional, there were tears, and it was just this, they didn't even know how to describe what the experience was because it was so immersive. And so it's not just these, these bowls. The ones that we did in the most recent one were the huge ones I think you're talking about. But there's so many other elements that you're incorporating where you really feel you're the vitamin, the bubble or whatever you're saying it's very real. Like it's so deeply immersive. I've never experienced anything like it. And I've been to many sound baths. So very, very cool.
So I have a question for you. So you got a diagnosis for basically a life-ending cancer, and that was in 2019.
Thanks.
And you went through the chemo and all the drugs that they give you and the stem cell replacement. And that was 2019. So 6 years later. So you're
In remission.
I've
been in remission since November 2020.
Okay.
They, with multiple myeloma, they want you on chemo for life.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's daily chemo for life. And at that time, I was like 250 pounds, from all the drugs they had me on. And, it was during COVID. So, we're all like still sitting in the house and everything. And then it was now March of 2021. And, now we all have to get back to work, right? So I got a job at the Metropolitan Club in the Willis Tower. And I'm like, man, I'm not going to be able to, I was managing the club as their sales guy. I'm 250. I had brain fog from the chemo. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this job. So I told my doctor, at the time, I'm not going to do maintenance therapy. I don't want to be on chemo for life. I said, you got my stem cells. I said, I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'll come in every 3 months and we'll take my blood work. And if something arises, we can address it then. But I refuse to take chemo for life. And I just do my sound. And every, for the last, up until, till now, I go in there all the time. I do my blood work. And every time I walk out, it's like, you're my best patient. Just keep doing what you're doing. And I'll see you in 3 months.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And I attribute so much of my success and my health to Western medicine. Because I do believe that the cancers that we get nowadays, are caused by the food, by the air, by man-made chemicals, pollution, and frequencies that are just coming at us all the time, right? And maybe back in the day, 1,000 years ago, sound bowls was enough, because you didn't have all this man-made stuff coming at you because everything was natural. Your illnesses was coming from nature. But when these man-made, things are coming at us, you need man-made chemicals to fucking give it that shock. And then in order to help regulate the nervous system and just keep everything at bay, that's where the sound comes in.
Right.
And for me, being a DJ for so long and partying and going around and traveling and being up all night, making people sing and dance, it puts a toll on your body, right? I was always in that fast, like, bang, gang.
Yeah, the cortisol.
Yeah, just constantly going. And all this stuff was stirring up in the background because I was never giving my body a chance to stop. I never stopped and giving my body a chance to say, hey, Peter stopped. Let's see what's wrong with him. They can go, okay, we need to go over here because when you're just constantly working and doing your stuff, you're sending all your resources over here. And all your shit, sorry, my language, all your stuff is brewing up bad over here and it's not being addressed. So yeah, that's how sound became very just powerful for me. And that's why I just want to share it with everybody as much as I can.
So how did you move? So obviously you had a mixture of this and Western medicine. So what was your program that you create, your vitamin that you created for yourself to get you through this? And then how do you use it every day with sound?
Man, that's a very tough, interesting question for me here. For me, it was experimentation. Because I didn't know what I was doing when I first started. I was learning. I was studying. I didn't know what the brainwave states were. I mean, I was learning that, we got our alpha and our beta and our alpha and going down into the delta. And, and then I was playing the instruments for myself and just noticing how they're making me feel and dealing with, I'd play the bowls for a while and then I'd go off and I'd do other stuff and just realizing how I'm dealing with things over here. Maybe things that would start to agitate me and really get on my nerves weren't anymore because I was just starting to keep this calmness, this steadiness, with me. So to your question, I'd just taking notes. I'd be like, okay, this, and playing the G note. Yeah, it's making me feel good here in the throat. Maybe I was expressing myself better than I normally would. Then I bought myself a grounding bowl. I bought myself the C note, and then this is how it was making me feel. And I would just write these things down. And then I would, and I'd be like, okay, I've got this pain in my arm. And I would just start playing different things and being like, pain's still there. Okay, that's not working. Tuning forks. And I'd get a tuning fork and I'd start, playing with myself on a tuning fork. Okay, yeah, that works. So that's how I started coming up with, I thought of myself, I don't think of myself as a sound healer because I don't believe that I'm the healer. I'm just the sound from the divine passing through me, going to you.
You're like the facilitator.
I'm the facilitator. I'm the vessel. It's coming through me. It's your energy. I don't let your energy bounce back to me. It goes, you guys goes off on their own, right? So I'm the vessel for sound. But like a doctor, you have protocols, right? You don't go to the doctor with an ailment and he's like, oh, let's, figure this out. They get out the book. There's A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
It's just like they found out when how I had the cancer. I had to go through A, B, C, D. Oop, you got multiple myeloma. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Engineers would hate me.
So this is pretty much chakra clearing with sound.
Chakra clearing with sound, yes. You can, you can call it, yeah. It's simply, in simple terms, yes, chakra clearing with sound.
And then
energy clearing.
You kind of take each individual person differently, like it's separately, it's special to them.
Correct.
So you just figure that out and then help them through the sound to
correct. Yes.
Their body at peace, or
to get their body back to its natural balance. And that can be in one session. It can take 7 sessions. It can take, really depends on what someone's going through and how long it takes for them to get there. Some people walk out of the studio like Jordan. And I found over the years, 7 days is about how long it lasts for the majority of people before they start to get it starts to wear off and the agitation comes back. So things start to bother them. That calmness starts to dissipate. And that's a lot of the times that's because of, what we're bringing into our lives, right? How much time are you spending on the news? How you're in this box, but then you start to pull yourself out of it.
Yes.
Right? You get all these other outside things start to pull you away from that.
So it's a practice that people need to keep up with, and maybe even on a daily basis, not just weekly, because of the stressors everyone's under throughout the week.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that we were talking about this on the way here, but what I felt after the most recent one that I went to was just that like a mask that I didn't know I was wearing was removed. And like the big theme and like message that kind of came through for me was simply just stop performing. Like like in whatever way and so it just made me reflect on that. I'm like, okay, like I feel like I'm someone who doesn't do that, but it's like clearly I am, if that's like the message that's coming up. And so after that session specifically, I feel like I've been so much more at a baseline of just my natural self, like totally authentic, like just this is who it is, like this is what's coming up, but not like constraining it either. So just like allowing each day to be new and like whatever's coming up and like letting myself just not fall into whatever I think I need to be. And that's what was just so interesting. Whereas like the person sitting next to me, Scott, my friend, completely different reality, like completely different experience. And my point in just sharing that is that it's really, I don't think it's like, there's no one size fits all. Like it's so completely custom to whatever you're bringing in. And I do tons of like energy and like in this space, I work with people one-on-one. So I try to do a lot of like receiving of like breath work or like, whatever else to like make sure I'm not picking up other people's energies. So maybe I wasn't coming in with anything specific. Like
that you know of.
That I know of. No, for sure. That I know of.
People don't realize they need this until they actually go through the experience.
Totally.
Yeah,
but anyways,
it's interesting because I'm reading a book called The Field right now, and she goes through and talks about quantum biology and quantum physics and how almost everything that we like our life is all frequency, and we don't realize it. So I'm taking this kind of from the book to ask you this question. She talks a lot about like people who have cancer have light in their body, but they don't really know where it comes from. But when you introduce certain frequencies, the cancer actually starts to disappear and the light starts to come back. So to me, this frequency work that you're doing is part of what realigns us with like the divine frequency, gives us that light back and helps us just naturally heal our body. And then you said something about crystals. Are all your bowls crystal?
Yes.
Because she talks about how crystals in this book are like living organisms, and it actually helps bring us back into divine alignment.
So the most of my bowls are all crystal, outside of my Himalayan bowls and that. But yes, I have, tons of crystal bowls, and, they're 99.9% quartz crystals. And the reason we resonate so well with them is because of the crystalline properties in our own cellular structure.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
That's why we resonate so well with the crystal bowls. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
So how do you use them? And you're getting us back into like the divine frequency, right? And
I like to say I'm bringing everyone back to their homeostasis.
Homeostasis. That's perfect. Okay.
I'm just bringing you back to your natural order.
So it's like you play a guitar when you tune it, and then over time it gets out of tune because the strings get a little bit longer and you need to retune it. And the things that you're speaking on, I relate to from like the health perspective, because everything's frequency and our eyes are really truly the extension of our brain, which takes in all this information. So are our ears, right? The sensory awareness, but our cellular structure, our skin, our connective tissue, right, is all just, it's vibrating. And then as you immerse it into this bath, it's resonating, and your cells resonating. It's kind of like a wine glass with the reverberation, right? Yeah. And what isn't supposed to be there shatters. Yeah. And your body is able to dissipate this. The thing that I've been really into is cymatics. Yeah. And the shape of sound. Yeah, the visualization of sound, because it brings it into reality for a lot of people. And the things that, like, the structure of your cells are the way they are because of the vibration that they hold. And so just as geometry is sound frozen in time or frozen in a solid state, so to speak, or captured in a solid state, right? The things I think about when you're talking about delivering vitamin via sound is light. Actually, from a quantum metabolic standpoint, like yellow light helps to synthesize the absorption of vitamin A. And so when you receive yellow light, you're able to actually synthesize vitamins at a different frequency or a different rate. Just as blue light, many benefits, but many negatives. It makes you run through the DHA omega-3 fatty acids in your cells. So that's the protective barrier, part of the protective barrier in your brain. And you run through that source a lot faster when you're exposed to blue light. And so much like, I'm sure, exposed to certain sound waves, certain frequencies, like there's frequencies that we don't even hear, right? That are just constantly bombarding our bodies. EMFs, right? Electromagnetic frequencies. They carry a sound that's causing static in your body, and you're clearing that. And I think that's fantastic, because as we talked about before the podcast, is Einstein's quote of the future is medicine.
It's
future of medicine.
Energy and vibration, right? Yeah. Frequency and vibration. I love my analogies, because I think it makes it very easy for people to understand what's happening, what's going on. An analogy I love to use for sound baths is the car wash analogy. Just picture yourself, we're all energy, right? We just spin at fast rates, we're matter. But I mean, if you picture yourself in your car, in your car, and then instead of your car, just picture yourself as your energy field, that you're about to go through a car wash. And what's the first thing when you go through a car wash? You pay, and then you're going into the thing, and the guy's like this, right? He wants to ground you. He wants you to get into those railings so you don't go off and hit his equipment. That's grounding. So that's how I always start off a session. I've got low frequencies playing to keep everyone's energy grounded. I'm coming around with grounding frequencies to make sure, especially if they're on their mats, and I'm coming over them so their energy stays grounded. Because I know when this session begins that I'm going to start lifting everyone's energy up, and some people can really go off, and it'll be hard to bring them back if you're not holding space properly. That's why I like to ground everyone first. Get in my tracks so you don't go crazy and go, I don't lose you. I ground everybody. But then all my instruments are very akin to the mechanics of a car wash. So what's the first thing that comes out when you go through a car wash? You get a little water, maybe a few little soap bubbles, but then those brushes come out, right? Those things that get the dirt off the car, which is, if you think of your energy field and you got static and noise, I start coming around the room with shakers and rattlers. Those are my brushes. because I'm outside you. I'm just kind of scraping and just looking for static and noise and kind of breaking things up, and I'm pouring water on you with a rain stick to kind of, and I'm giving you visualizations. Imagine you're going through this car wash. We're cleansing your energetic field. Visualize that. Start up here at the top of your head, work your way down to your toes, and look for areas in your where you feel heaviness or static or discomfort, and then focus on that. And when you sense me over you scrubbing, imagine we're cutting those cords and letting all this stuff go on its own journey, right? And then you got that blow dryer at the end. It's like the big gong, just blowing everything off. And I'm doing tuning forks. That's like the wax, the detailing work, getting in there with the field. So I like the, it's a bath. It's a wash. It's a cleanse. And, you can also use the analogy, you've gone to the spa and you're having a full body scrub, right? You're laying on your table and they're getting you with those loofah sponges and everything. Again, it's a cleanse, it's a wash. And that's why when you walk out of there, you just feel so much lighter. You feel clean. You're like, what did you just do? And on top of that, going to Scott, how he was crying, I mentioned earlier that it's co-creative, right? And I know when people are coming into the studio, people are coming in because they're dealing with a health issue. They're dealing with a mental issue, a mind issue. Something's going on. They're racing thoughts. They're depression, whatever it may be. Some people are just coming in for that new experience, and then they walk out not realizing they needed that experience. So when I'm creating the music at home, because I don't just play the instruments, I always create background music to go along with the music that I'm playing, right? Because I feel that people, a lot of us need help staying present. Mm-hmm. And the more rhythm I can put into the music, I don't put a lot of rhythm into the music, but just enough to keep someone's awareness here instead of them falling asleep. And then I want people to cry. Mm-hmm. My goal is to get people to cry
my breath works
in my session because I know they're releasing. I know I've struck that chord because music, sound, frequencies gets into those areas where words can't. Mm. When you want to be happy, when you want to be sad, when you want to be mad, what do? Put on headphones, put on your music, right? And instantaneously, that first beat, music helps you remember, right? It helps you. When you're going through a sound bath and the frequencies, your body starts to remember what it is to feel safe, right? Because it brings that peace and calm. And that's why when I'm creating the music at home, it takes me, sometimes an hour thing will take me, 2 months to put together something. And other times it takes me a day to put a whole thing together. But I'm always looking for sounds and for effects that really stir up emotions in people, or I know are sounds that are going to help people visualize the breaking up of the energy that's in their field, and then that resolve that I can bring over them of that cleanse. So it's like, I got the scrubbers going, we're scrubbing and we're releasing, and then I come in with maybe a beautiful C sharp or a beautiful tone that just makes everyone go like, and just bring that stillness back over them.
So when people leave your studio, then what do you tell them to do when they're out now in the world and they feel a certain energy that may not feel so good?
Take a deep breath.
Just take a deep breath until they come see you.
Buy a sound membership. His new location is sorry, shameless plug.
Like we gotta wait 6-7 days.
Yeah.
So it's right when I'm finishing the session. Those are my aftercare tips: is stay off your phone. Mm-hmm. Stay off your phone. Stay off the scrolling. Don't leave here and go have cocktails. If you're going to go have dinner afterwards, go have dinner, go have a nice quiet conversation, enjoy and bathe in the feeling that you're having, right?
So bathe in calmness.
Bathe in the calmness, and you'll notice when you leave, you'll notice that things that just were bothering you. Maybe the person you're bothering, maybe what you're with, maybe they say things you're like, Arr. But now after
Jordan
you leave,
doesn't know why I really brought him now.
right. But then when you leave, you're just like, that didn't bother me right now.
To the point with your car wash, right? Like, are you going to go off road and go
into the mud.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you want to keep that thing
Keep it
clean.
clean. Keep that shit clean.
Wow. And it gets dirty quickly.
And it gets
people
dirty
get upset.
quickly. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like-
totally different direction, but I want to talk about manifestation.
Oh.
Because we were talking about this slightly right when we were walking in, and I'm like, stop talking. I want this to be on the podcast. I would love to hear about how you manifested your first space and kind of like your ideas around manifestation, because I think that's totally relevant to like what we're talking about here. And one of the key things that you and I were talking about is how most people don't, they forget the missing link of the final piece of really making a manifestation come true, which is aligned action, massive aligned action. So I'd love to just hear your story in that from that perspective as well.
So how did I build my first studio? So I had, in March of 2021, when I first started playing for people, I was going from yoga studios to different corporations, doing different friends and that kind of stuff. And I really just so as I would be doing these sound baths, I would notice, like 30 minutes into the sound bath, all of a sudden people are like, oh, my back. Oh, they're adjusting their hips and their legs. And that's because you're going to these different places and all they got is a yoga mat, a nice little thin yoga mat, and they're laying on the floor for an hour. You're going to get uncomfortable. And I'm sitting there thinking, how are people really, healing and getting the best experience if they're 30 minutes into it? They're not even focused on the sound anymore, the frequency. They're more focused on the pain, the discomfort of just laying there. Not to say that the frequencies still aren't working, because they are. Don't get me wrong. There's no barrier between you and the healing powers of the sound bowls or any of the instruments that I play once I start playing them. I don't start playing these bowls and the vibrations stop because, you got your eyes closed. Right. So we're going to go around you. No, they still go through you. And they're still gonna work. I just believe that it's a better outcome when there's a co-creative process, when the two of us are working together and you're doing all the visualizations. So I got tired of carrying my bowls around. I had gone to an opening of a yoga studio to possibly do a sound bath there, and I met a hypnotherapist. And her name was Diane. And I gave her my card, and it was about a month and a half later, she randomly called me, and she had asked me if we could just kind of work together. I thought that'd be a great idea. I said, but before we even do that, why don't you test on me? I've never gone through. I never went through a hypnotherapist or anything like that. And she's like, okay. So she came and said, she's like, what do you want to work on? I was like, well, I'm going to build a studio. Let's get this thing done. So we sat down and she created this. There was a 2-hour meditation that she asked me questions and we put together all these answers. And then she said, now, as we went through the session, I had to embody exactly, what I wanted to create and really feel it and manifest it and believe in it and see it and all this. And it was a 30-day process.
Details.
It was detail. And I literally, I remember she said you had to listen to this in the morning and in the evening. And it was for 30 days. And I did, and I would take it into the studio or at home, and I'd listen to it in the morning.
Was the recording of your session?
It was a recording of my session. And if I remember, it was my voice or her voice. No, it was her voice. And I would play it, and I would visualize it, but then I would start playing it in the studio as I was creating it in the studio. Cool. And then I would sit in my studio, just in the bare room, and I would be doing snow angels, feeling, how's it going to feel in here? How's it going to feel? And then I'd finish, and then I would just have this okay, let's get to work. It was like it took me from the just thinking about what I wanted to do, and it put me into the action.
It activated you.
It activated me. Cool. And I had the studio done 2 weeks in advance. I gave myself a deadline, and I had it done sooner than the deadline that I was supposed to be done. So that was great. But I always say most people, they forget the action part. People are like, I want a lot of money, I want abundance. And people aren't very specific. They're not detailed. I want abundance. Okay, yeah, I want abundance. I want abundance. And the universe says, okay, we'll give you a bucket of abundance. Boom, boom, boom. You know, they whack you over the head with a bunch of abundance of getting knocked out. Right?
It's interesting because that's why I decided to go and back and get my hypnotherapy certification and go and do this, because I had a similar experience with my hypnotherapy. I went for a bunch of stuff, and I've shared a lot on the podcast, but one thing that my therapist did for me was walk me through a similar situation to embody and feel and then become the person that I wanted to be to attract the right relationships into my life. And he walks me through kind of a whole thing like you were talking about. And I didn't know it at the time, but I literally had a like an out-of-body experience and had a vision of my now current husband in our kitchen that is now our kitchen, that I would, like, I saw into the future, I guess you could say, by doing an activity like that. And I'm a true believer in it. It's something that I teach my clients now, which is what you're saying, right? It's to choose, make the choice. You wanted to open the studio, right? That was your choice. Then you started feeling, what is it going to feel like? How am I going to embody that? What's those, like, you know, when you said you were doing your snow angels, like you were feeling that like cleansing and excitement and all of that.
Yeah.
And then you become, that's when your I am statements start happening, because then you are being this person because you've taken all of these actions to get there. It's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking your story shows the power of visualization, and then the inspired action that takes place after that visualization. It's really cool.
And that was the same thing I did with this the new studio that I'm in, because it took me 8 months to find the space. You know, taken 3 weeks to put it all together. But for the last 8 months, I've been manifesting it. For 8 months, I've been very detailed to the T with how much I was going to pay, the location. I mean, I was very, very specific. And every day for 8 months, I mean, I just kept embodying, what's it going to feel like to have this space? What's it going to feel like to now, instead of having 8 people into my little studio, you're now going to have 20 people in your studio. And what's it going to feel like to have people walking out of your studio feeling great? What's it going to feel like if you have people walking out of your studio who may not feel so great? So I had to, I try and embody every possible aspect of, that there is. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, I can sometimes ramble.
And then I somehow got into your manifestation and made sure that it was across the street from my apartment. Literally, I gave him Neoma for the studio, the big plant, because it wasn't going to fit in his car. I'm remembering it. But I mean, how cool, like that. And so with that, how long did that process take for you? You said for this space, you said about a year?
About 8 months. I started looking for a new space was February of this year. And every time I thought I found the new space, a wrench had come in. Every single time. And I was like, man, I guess that wasn't the space.
Just release.
And I would just, okay, we gotta, I get frustrated. I'd be like, man, here we go again. Oh,
yeah.
God, am I gonna get out of this space? Like I get claustrophobic. Well, and my space is like the size of this room, my old space.
And
for 8 people?
Well, and the reason...
Wow.
Maybe it was this and a half.
But the only reason that I actually got the one-on-one session is because I could never get into his group class. The group classes were always sold out. And you did how many are you doing at the old space a month?
The old space I would do anywhere from 4 to 6 a week.
Yeah, but they were just always immediately sold out. Yeah. And so I could never get it. And so I was like, fine, I'm just going to buy the one-on-one. I can't get in with this guy. And then it worked out great. But the new space now, so are you keeping both spaces or just moving everything to this?
I'm moving everything to the new space. I was going to keep both. And I was just like, it makes no sense to keep both now that I can just handle everybody in one spot. Yeah.
Well, as far as your new space goes, tell people about your offerings. What are you excited about? What's coming into the pipeline in the next year?
So in this space, It's a bigger space. So I got the community group classes. I do private individuals, private couples, private small groups, corporate wellness. If you want to come in for birthday parties, anniversaries, maybe a private healing, someone's going through cancer, someone's going through some sort of ailment or just depression or whatever it may be. Sometimes you just want an energetic cleanse. I'm there for everything sound, right? So now I'm going to be introducing some new stuff, stretching and sound, not yoga, just gentle. So when I first started doing on my own, I would sit in my studio and I would just play the bowls because I'm not flexible. So I would sit there and I'd be like on my knees or I'd be standing because I can't, if I cross my legs, I fall backwards.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I got to get flexible. I see all these other people doing sound baths and they got their legs closed like, I was like, it's not me. So I would just start playing the bowls and I was like, okay, I got to stretch. So I would just play and I'd be like stretching to the sound and I would hold it. As the sound would dissipate, I'd come back into, my balance.
Amazing.
And I'd go back into another stretch. So I want to incorporate that into one of my sessions. I want to bring hypnosis in and do hypnosis and sound. Yeah. And just and any other thing I can think of doing with sound and, in the studio and sound and dancing. I don't know.
Awesome.
So I want to bring the listeners back. I have a question about the safe space that you create.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important to give them kind of a visual of what your space looks like and how you created that more comfortable, safe space than a yoga mat. What did you add to it? Because I did a meditation retreat and I had exactly what you were doing. I just had a hip replacement. And they were going through like the meditation and like half hour in, I couldn't think anything except for my hip was hurting me from laying on my back for so long. Yeah. So I'd love to hear, could you give us that visual of what you're doing for your clients and how they can be more comfortable coming in?
So one of the first things, I wish not one of the first things, the first thing that really brought, that I had a lady, I was doing sound baths in LaGrange. And she was coming every Wednesday in the afternoon. And finally, it was like 8 weeks in, I had said to her, I said, you come every Wednesday. I said, why? And she goes, because I got depression. She has depression. And she goes, this is the one thing that allows her to just gather all her thoughts and make sense out of everything during that hour and 10 minutes I had with her. And that carried her around. That carried her for 7 days, right? So back to what I was saying, I get people coming in for all these different reasons. And I just wanted to create a space that from the moment I open that door and someone's foot starts to come into my space, that they feel as though they're being transported and walking into a new dimension, right? So my space looks like it's, Saints and Angels Healing Through Sound. Let's start there real quick. How did that name even come about? First off, my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, he says, you've got angels that follow you. Sorry. You got angels that follow you everywhere. So I've always believed in angels. And I've always believed in saints. I've always, in my house and my condo, I've always got angels and saints everywhere. It's like a little church in my home. So I wanted to just create that environment where people were just able to let go. Just let go, feel completely at ease, and just shift them into this, like they just came into a sanctuary, like an oasis, like, where am I? And then I didn't want them to be on yoga mats. It took me about 7 months to find the cushions that I have in the studio. I mean, I would order off Amazon and just keep returning them until I found the one that I was comfortable laying on for an hour.
Cool.
And then once I did, I got those, and then I would, and the comfort, a lot of it comes from my mom. When she passed, I know she's with me in the studio. I know she was the designer at home. She was the one that was always rearranging everything, and I constantly rearranged my studio. You saw the clouds in the picture in the studio. Because I want you to feel as though you're up in heaven.
Yeah.
So I make it very immersive, and it's immersive. It's not only immersive with the sound, it's immersive visually. I've got the clouds, I've got the cushions, I've got the rugs on the floor that make you feel like you're on a cloud. I've got the murals on the wall that are sky. That's a big sky. So you feel like you're floating in the sky when you're laying on there. You got the eye mask to keep you. I've got the sense, the smells of frankincense going on. So it gives you that kind of like divine and like I'm in a church, kind of feeling. So I give you all this sensory, experience that just kind of make you very comfortable.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's and you don't have to bring anything. You just come as is. I take care of all that. But back to, how I came up with Saints and Angels Healing Through Sound. During COVID, my partner had gone into the hospital. He was dying. And they had told me that he wasn't going to live in the hospital. They had said, his liver is going to fail. You might as well send him off to Iola and Maywood, and maybe he'll get a liver transplant. And at that time, I was like, I was a wreck. And I had brought in all my angels from the house, decorated the whole, the hospital room. I had called up the bishop from the Greek Orthodox, church, and I said, send me the healing prayers of the Byzantine, the chanting. So I had that. I had different solfeggio frequencies. This is before me, this is where I'm just now learning, right? I hadn't, I got, gone off and started doing sound baths yet. So I was getting music off the internet, the different frequencies. I had headphones on them. We were studying pranic healing. So I was doing pranic healing work, on them at the same time. And at one point, this is when the head doctor had come in and said, he's, we expect him not to live. Send him off to Iola. You got to either he's going to die there or die here, right? If you send him to Iola, you'll never see him again. If we keep him here, you'll stay with him. And at that time, one of the nurses, after they she came into the room. She sat me down and she goes, Peter, I don't know what they told you, but I'm going to tell you, I've been a nurse here. She goes, I've been a nurse here for 5 years, and I've never experienced the what you've created in this space. You've created this energy in here that's very chills. Yeah. She goes, you created this energy in here that she goes, I've never felt before in this hospital. So she goes, whatever you're doing, it's amazing. You do what you have to do, but just know that what you're creating here is it's special. And that was the thing that said to me, don't send him to Maywood. Just keep him right here. So then I called up my the priest again, and I said, can you send, because you were across the street from St. Basil's Church, we're at Rush at the time, and I said, can you send over the church, the priest from St. Basil's to do the last rites on my partner? So he came over and he did St. Basil, the last rites. He gave the ashes to my partner and everything. And then they came in and they took his blood work. And I was there and they came back with the results 3 hours later. And then all the numbers that they said that he was going to die started turning back the other way. Oof. The numbers that they were looking at, they were saying he was not coming back, all of a sudden stopped. And all of a sudden we're coming back to normal. And then every blood work after that got better and better and better. And he came out of his coma. And here we are. And, and before I even opened Saints and Angels, and I was telling everybody, hey, Saints and Angels Healing Through Sound. You believe me? I had enough people telling me, I don't know if you want to use that. People in the religion nowadays. And oh my God, they may come and, break your windows and everything, burn down your building. I was like, I was like, man, I know something's telling me I have to honor the saints and the angels for everything that they've done. So I said, Saints and Angels Healing Through Sound it is.
And they've been with you ever since. Since. All your life, but really through everything that you've been through. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. And then so I wanted to mention this earlier. I do have an acronym for what I do.
Yes.
It's called DRIFT. Deep relaxation induced by frequencies and tones.
Okay.
And that's what I like to call the experience that I create. Because what I'm doing is I'm bringing you down and I'm placing you between your theta and your delta states. The minute you come into that space, you start to shift from your beta to your alpha, wherever you're at up there, and you start shifting down. And by the time I start, you're in your theta. By the time, we're going into the session, you're coming down, you're dipping, and I'll dip you into delta, and then I'll bring you back out of it. And then you'll get into what I just call the drift, where you're not sleeping, you're not awake, you're just in this comfortable zone. And when people start to feel like they're levitating, because I get that all the time, everyone's like, oh my God, I felt like I was levitating. Because you were. Because what I'm using, I'm creating sound beds. I'm using the frequencies to create a floor. And then when I got these big bowls and these drones, these frequencies are coming under you. And I call it the magic sound ride. Just like you watch Aladdin and you get on their magic carpet ride and they go off on their journey. I tell everybody, when we're about to go through this experience and you feel these low vibrations come through you, imagine that it's that magic carpet ride and it's going to lift you up and just take you on a journey. And that's what I do in there.
So I have a question for you. You used to do like dance music and stuff. Like I'm a huge Avicii fan. I love all his music and everything. Avicii. Yeah. And so I had this conversation with my husband the other day. I'm like, I don't know, I like dance music more than I like any other music because I don't have to listen to the words. Right. I can just listen to the beat and it takes me on a journey, right? So when you transition from more of like DJing and dance type music to this type of music, what did you have to unlearn or like relearn, whatever, to make the transition into sound healing?
You're being very aware of everyone in that room.
Everybody in that room.
Because you even know what your sound can do to people.
Yeah, because I know what it did. I know what it's done for me, and I've worked with sound for so long as a DJ, right? And I don't take sounds for granted. I know sounds agitate me. And a lot of times, like when I have private sessions, I'll even experiment with sounds and ask questions. Are there certain sounds that may, agitate you or get your nerves rattling a little bit? Because I want to avoid those. Yeah.
And these sessions, are they like 1 hour, 30 minutes?
70 minutes. I start at 70 minutes and I go up to about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, because I they used to be a little shorter when I kept them at 60, but I it takes 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes for people just to settle in and get into it. Yeah. And the next thing you know, if I'm doing a 60-minute session, they're only there for 30 minutes and that's it.
Yeah.
The rest oh my God.
It is interesting that first 30 minutes, both times that I've come, it's like all my thoughts. Like things I'm like, oh, what? I'm never thinking about that. What is it? It's like it's bringing it all up and then out. Mm-hmm. That's been my experience. Yeah. And it's like thoughts that, again, it's like crazy thoughts. Like, things you're, like you said, you don't know what you're coming in for. It'd be like random things I hadn't thought about in years. And I'm just like, oh, here we go. And it's incredibly helpful to have that longer time period because then you do the drift.
Yeah. Right. And that's why I say it's a co-creative process. Because like I said earlier, the sounds get where words can't. Mm-hmm. So those start the sounds will start bringing up things that happened years ago. And sometimes the craziest thoughts, a good example I always get is a guy cut you off the road 3 weeks ago while you were driving the car. And he cut you off in such a crazy fashion that you're still thinking about it and how it made you feel. Well, that's silly. Mm-hmm. Why are you holding on to that? I mean, let that go. That's like just taking up space on you that doesn't even need to be there. Mm-hmm. So it's like, use that sound. If it's bringing it up, use that frequency to help cut that cord. Mm-hmm. Imagine all that stuff is like energy that's just attached to you, like cords. Oh. I always like to use Neo from The Matrix. Imagine when he had those cords.
Yeah.
Yes.
They all pull out, right?
Yes.
Think of that with the energy. That's in the sound and the frequency is like, I always say, Archangel Michael is coming through the room with his sword, and he's cutting all those cords that are attached to you for those things that are just holding you down that you really don't even know that they're there. And all of a sudden you'll think, well, where'd that come from?
That's what my sword is.
So we've been talking about the past few episodes of Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's basically clearing these cords, these soul ties that we have to all these situations, people, beliefs, all these things. And it's all about clearing, detachment, removal of these things. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
But to add To finish off about the archangels, do you have like a specific archangel? Because Archangel Michael's mine. I have like a sword that I keep in my pocket, and I literally got it tattooed on my hand, but I'm just curious. Awesome. Okay, cool.
He's the Ascended Master.
Of course, that tracks.
So I know this doesn't have to do with sound necessarily, but once you clear the energy and help people kind of get back to, I'm going to call it source energy because it's like the 0 point field or whatever you want to call it, right? What do you recommend people to keep those, to make sure that they don't keep getting those cords reattached? I know you had mentioned earlier about like not watching the news. What else? Like,
well, you are going to get cords attached.
Yeah.
You're always going to have cords attaching to you. It's just, I mean, that's how I look at it. It's sticky. You're not going to stop the Wi-Fi from this phone attaching to you, or the 5G towers, or under people as they enter into your field, and those cords attached to you. I mean, if you don't want anything, then just kind of get out of the situation, I guess, right away before that cord can attach to you and start to shift you. Come in for a cleaning every 2 weeks or whenever you feel it's necessary. I keep everything reasonably priced because I do believe that sound healing and energetic healing should be accessible for everyone. And too many sound healers, energy workers, I think, price themselves out of the market. Like, how are you going to get business and work and learn more if you can't practice on people? And the way you're going to practice on people is by giving them a price that's affordable so they come to you. If you're charging $450 for a 2-hour session, you're not going to have that many people. They do.
But it takes a lot of people out of the game of being able to afford it.
And then I question, then how good is that $450 sound healer if they're really not practicing on anybody, because you're not practicing on many people if you're charging $450.
Right.
But if you're charging, $150 or $45 in my group sessions, I have sessions, now I'm cutting them back because it takes so much out of me.
Yeah.
But when I first started doing this, you have to embody, I am, right? I am. Here I am. It's like my cousin's a dentist. And I said, well, when you came out of dental school, you're a dentist like that. It's like, Peter, when I came out of dental school, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything until I started practicing on people.
That's so true.
Terrifying and real.
Terrifying and real. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. I feel
true
that's the same exact way with hypnosis, anything else that you're doing.
It's true.
Yeah.
You
gotta get reps.
The more you gotta get the reps, and the more you practice on people, and the more you see what's happening, and the more you're holding the space, the better you become at what you're doing. And like everyone always asks me, like, how do you know what you're doing? I say, after 5 years of holding this tuning fork and playing this drum and playing these bowls, I know how they should sound and feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I was going to ask, after you do the sessions with 15 people, and I think you kind of answered it, that you have to cut back because you're in you're in a room full of everyone else's energy, and it could be pretty strong probably.
Yeah, and you're holding that container, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then do you go to someone, or do you do the sound session for yourself after? What do you do?
Both.
Yeah.
There's not many sound people that I go to. I have one. Her name is Jackie that I use here, that I go to here in the city. But I do my salt baths afterwards. I listen to my own frequencies, and I'll do my binaural beats or my solfeggio frequencies, and through my headphones. I'll play the bowls for myself. I'll do my tuning forks, on myself. I'll meditate. I just,
But you still had to cut back on the sessions because
just it
holding that energetic
space.
When you're doing it the way that you're doing, which in my opinion is like the right way to facilitate, it is like heavy. It's heavy.
It's not like, if you've done a sound bath, 99.9% of all people who do sound baths literally are like a performer.
Yes.
They sit in the front of the room. They got their bowls around them. They play. They don't talk. They just sit there and they play their instruments. And in an hour, they're done and they say, well, wake up, right? Me, I'm walking around the room. I'm playing the drum over each person. I'm playing the tuning fork at the end of the session. the 528, because I always use that to seal in the energy over everybody in that studio. You don't leave my studio until I've come through with 528 over you.
Yeah.
If there's one person or if there's 15 person, everyone's getting, it's like semi-private sessions in my group sessions. So they take a lot out of me like that.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with that. I feel that with my hypnosis sessions, I can't do too many because I give my all and I just need energetic break afterwards. Swear my last question. Kids, do you recommend bringing them? Can they be part of this?
Depends. Yes. I do kid sessions. They've come in at the 8 has been the youngest that's come to my studio. And they don't come into the community groups. They'll come in with the families, but I'm getting more and more like family weekends.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which I love.
That's cool.
And the mom and dad, and they come in with their 3 kids.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's really nice. And you'll get like 9, 12, and 14.
I want to
And they'll
do
all
it.
fall
Kids
asleep.
are so,
with
they're
my
so
kids.
awake like now, and they're so sensitive, like way more open to this kind of thing. So I'm sure you have really great results.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the kids walk out there, they're like, oh my God, that was great.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This is so
thank you for having
wonderful.
me.
I've learned so much. And where can everyone find you online? What's your website?
My website is www.saints-angels.com.
Beautiful.
And I'm located at 1223 North LaSalle in Chicago.
Beautiful.
LaSalle
Awesome.
Division.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time and holding this space with us.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. As always, we love you and we can't wait to see you next week.